Hello and welcome to GCSE Options Evening. My name is Mr. Richards and I'm one of the Deputy Head Teachers at Uplands Academy with responsibility for timetable and options. I think of this time of year for Year 9 as an exciting moment. Up until this point, all students have been following the same pathway through their Key Stage 3 education. Now, this is the first time that students begin to make choices about the direction they want to take their learning over the next 2 years. Guiding you through this process are two of my colleagues, Mr. Gander, who is the Associate Head Teacher at Uplands with responsibility for timetable and options, and Mr. McFloyd, who is the Head of Year 9, both of whom give you lots of information and will be useful points of contact as you go through this process. So some key dates for you. Year 9 had their launch assembly last week with Mr. Gander. Tonight is our Year 9's option evening, and also in conjunction with that, the results of the most recent Year 9 curriculum knowledge assessments should be available for you on EduLink. This will give you some indication of relative performance in different subjects. After Christmas, on Monday the 5th of January, the form will be sent out to parents with a parents' evening in the middle of that process. So it's sent out on the 5th, it's due in on the 30th of January, and there's an important date in the middle of that process, which is the 15th of January. There is a Year 9 parents' evening. That is a good opportunity to get an update on progress, but also to ask any questions about suitability that you might have for options subjects. I thought I would give parents and carers a quick update on some of the changes to GCSEs since perhaps they were at school. Now, parents and carers may have studied O-levels, they may have studied GCSEs, and if they did, they'd be familiar with the grading system, which runs from a grade G as the lowest grade up to an A star. Now, in 2014, there was a major review of GCSE qualifications. And as part of that review, a new grading system came in place where 1 is the lowest grade and 9 is the highest, with grade 9 being equivalent to an A star star. Alongside the reform to the grading structure, the government also changed the amount of content each subject included. And where I studied 10 GCSEs at school, with the reforms that took place in 2016 to 18, each qualification increased in size and complexity significantly, and that's why students at Uplands, as with many local schools, pursue 9 GCSEs rather than the 10 or 11 that people in the pre-reform GCSEs may have been used to. I'll talk a little bit about the English Baccalaureate, whether that's something you wish to consider and something that's right for you. And I want to draw your attention to some alternatives to GCSE. Now, these are what we call equivalents, and they are worth the same amount in terms of college entries and level 3 qualifications as GCSEs. One is a technical award, and it's a technical award in performing arts. It includes drama and music production, and it's something to consider if that area of careers is of interest to you. Now, it's not assessed in the same way as a traditional GCSE. Instead, it has a more vocational feel to it, and more of it is assessed through practical application and work. A similar thing is true of the Cambridge National in Sport Studies. It sits alongside our GCSE PE course, but it has a more vocational and practical lean to it and feel. And lastly, we have an ICT BTEC. Again, that's a more coursework-based subject rather than a more traditional GCSE, which would have exams at the end of the course. So, all worth considering, and if any of those things interest you, worth finding out more from the subject information booklet and videos. So, as mentioned earlier, most students will pursue 9 GCSEs or equivalents as they go through Key Stage 4. 5 of those qualifications come from what we call the academic core curriculum, and that's the curriculum that everybody has to follow. Firstly, one GCSE is made up of the English language qualification, one from English literature, one for mathematics, and then every student studies 2 sciences, and I'll be talking about the option for triple science a bit later. But there's the academic core, 5 qualifications that everybody takes. And alongside the 5 core subjects, students then choose from a range of traditional GCSEs, and there's a list of the courses that are on offer for students to choose between. And then the more vocational or technical qualifications that were mentioned earlier. And there they are in ICT, sport and performing arts. So students choose a selection of 4 from those 2 groups of subjects. And within that, there's almost limitless choice, but we do specify that students must take at least one humanities subject. So all students have to study either geography or history. If you're particularly minded to do so, you can study both subjects if that is what is right for you. We do encourage people to consider a language, especially if you're to pursue an academic route or looking for an application to a top university. That is something which should be given serious consideration. So what is the English Baccalaureate? Well, it's a combination of subjects. You can see on the left-hand side you have the academic core curriculum, which every student follows. Next, you have the humanities, and as mentioned previously, every student must choose either geography or history, and they can choose both. And really the last pillar that makes up the English Baccalaureate is the choice of a language. If you study the core plus a humanity and one of the languages, either French or Spanish, then you attain the English Baccalaureate. It still gives you, if you choose that route, 2 free choices of subjects, which does give you the flexibility to shape things towards your interest, as well as maintaining a strong academic core. So is the English Baccalaureate right for you? Well, it certainly gives a strong academic foundation. You've got your English, your maths and science, as well as humanities and languages subjects. And the feeling is that that combination of subjects offers a very high quality curriculum going forward and keeps many doors open. And the Department for Education state that many of the top universities in the country look very favourably upon the English Baccalaureate. So if a university application, especially to a prestigious university, is something that you're interested in the future, then I would suggest giving the English Baccalaureate serious consideration. Those for whom the EBAC isn't right will actually study a very similar curriculum. Again, you can see the core and the humanities subject, but this time instead of choosing a language, a student who's not following the EBAC pathway would simply have one additional free choice in that column. So a quick comparison of your science experience, depending on which one you choose. For combined science, you get 9 periods per fortnight, 3 focusing on each of the sciences with specialist teaching. And there you can see those sort of double grades which come from the combined science route. In the separate sciences or the triple science route, you can see that there's a lot more time spent in science. So one of your options will be in triple science. If you want to take that route, it takes up one of your options. There'll be 14 periods per fortnight of science if you take triple science, 4 to 5 hours in each of the disciplines, again with specialist teaching, and you can see how the grading looks different to the combined grading with separate results in each of the 3 sciences. Another important consideration is to keep a good mix of qualifications. Now, art, photography and product design might sound like an appealing combination if you're a creative student. However, it's worth considering how much of the same type of work you'll be creating. All of those subjects have a strong kind of portfolio element where you're creating work throughout the year, and you may find yourself with a huge amount of portfolio work to do if you choose all three of those subjects. It may be worth considering just studying one or two of those creative subjects rather than studying all three together. And the same is true of the OCR National in Sport, the BTEC in ICT, and the Performing Arts Award. You'll find yourself with a lot of coursework for those subjects, and it's worth thinking, okay, well, I'll keep some subjects which are assessed through coursework and some others which are assessed as part of a final exam for GCSE. And again, geography, history, and religious studies, they might seem like a very sensible combination of humanities subjects if you're a letters-based person, but again, you're storing up a lot of revision and writing at the end of the course if you study all three together. So we do encourage you to keep a good mix of subjects to create a good balance. So that's the basic background information. Now, I'm sure you'll want to find out more information about each of the qualifications that's available. To do that, we've sent a link to the Year 9 Options Information booklet, and you can see the front cover of that document on screen. That's a document which contains lots of information about subjects. It contains course information, assessment methods, and so forth. And we've also sent links to subject videos where each of the heads of subject has really taken time to take you through some of the key information that you need when making these decisions. When preparing to make your decisions, it's important to think about what are some good reasons for choosing individual subjects. Now, it's important to choose subjects in which you've had success already and subjects that you enjoy doing because you're likely to spend more time doing that subject in the coming 2 years. It's important to do plenty of research around the subject just to check that the subject matter will motivate and interest you to learn. And it's important to think about the steps in 2 years' time after GCSE. Where do I want to go at post-16 for my A-level or level 3 qualifications? And will the options I'm taking now give me the flexibility to move on to do those things? You might want to continue studying the subject after 16, or it might be appropriate to stop studying at that point. And it's also important to consider, although it is very early in the educational process to consider this in detail, but what sort of career areas interest you and how your subjects and ideas fit in with that. And equally, there are some things to avoid when choosing your options. Try not to choose your options for Key Stage 4 based on influence of your friends. Now, of course, your friends are important at this stage, but these choices are about your future well beyond school. So it's worth avoiding just simply trying to choose the same things as your peer group. There is no such thing as an easy subject to Key Stage 4. They each come with their own challenges. Each subject is different, as I've mentioned earlier, but please don't choose a subject just because you think it will be not much writing, for example. There is always going to be an element of academic writing in each subject. And again, it's important to consider what's right for you. Just because a family member, a brother or a sister or a parent has studied a subject doesn't necessarily mean that's right for you. So it is important to think carefully about what's right for the individual. And very importantly, please don't choose based on your current teacher and how much you like your current teacher in Year 9. There's absolutely no guarantee that you'll get the same teacher in Year 10, and therefore it should be more about your love of the subject than it is about how much you enjoy a current teacher's lesson. Our intention is to run every course that we're offering and that you've seen on the presentation today, and it would be lovely to do so. There is a slight caveat in that if a course doesn't attract enough interest and not enough students opt for that course, it may have to be withdrawn, although we don't want to do that, and that's always the last resort for us. I'd also say that we try to accommodate every combination of subjects that students choose, but again, there will be a small number of students for whom the combinations chosen are unusual and don't necessarily fit into our options blocks. And at that point, we would go back to students and families to have another conversation about a slightly different fit for the option blocks. And here are a couple of useful links to additional information. The BBC has created a video guide on choosing your options, which is worth a look. And I've attached a link to a careers website. It's Youth Employment UK. And I found this website really useful when I was having a quick look earlier. It essentially breaks down careers into key areas. So whilst you probably don't know the job title of the job you'll eventually be going for, there are a range of different areas of employment which students can begin to explore. There's a range of jobs in there and also guidance and information about the sorts of academic qualifications which would be appropriate. So do take a look at that website.
So how should you make your decisions tonight? Well, first it's important to consider your humanities subject, whether geography or history is your first choice of humanity. Once you've done that, it's important to have a conversation around the EBAC and whether that's the right route for you. If it is, then the choice has to be made between French and Spanish, which leaves you with 2 free options after that. If the EBAC isn't the right choice for you, then you simply make 3 free choices instead of 2. Now, on the next slide, there is a mock-up of the form, which has been given out to students, and I'll talk you through how to complete this form. So students were given a blank copy of this form in their morning assembly today, and they should have it in their bags. If they haven't already given it to you, please ask them to get it out so that you can complete it. It's a relatively straightforward form, but I'll just talk you through it. Firstly, we're looking for the student's name and their tutor group at the top, and then there are a number of things to indicate on the form. Firstly, they're asked to indicate their humanities preference. So they choose either geography or history at this point. And that's because everybody needs to study a humanities subject. They can choose the other subject in the box below. Let's say they want to do geography and history. That's possible. And this form shows you how to do that. So I've ticked geography to indicate that that is my choice. And then underneath, history makes up one of my choices. Now, in the box below, that is where students indicate their choices. So in this case, this is an example of a student who is going to be pursuing the English Baccalaureate, and we can see that they've selected French as their second choice. Now there is a ranking, and the ranking just runs 1, 2, 3 and R. So all this means really is that history is this student's top choice, the one they're most keen on taking. French is their second choice in that box, and then performing arts is the third. Now this student has 4 options in total. They have geography, history, French, and performing arts technical award. The R is simply there to indicate a reserved choice, which would be their first preference if the options above don't work in the combination shown. So when you've completed your form, you should have indicated your humanities subject. You should have ranked at least 3 subjects underneath, 1, 2, 3, and then you should indicate your reserve subject with an R. Once that's done, if parents or carers could sign the form to let us know that you've seen it and that you agree with the choices, and then the form needs to be handed back by the 26th of January. And that's it. The last thing to say is that I hope the options process works out well for you. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me on the email shown on screen, and I wish you the very best of luck with the options process.